The NFC North is the most interesting division in the NFL. Now, the NFC North, in my opinion, is the most interesting division in football just because of this reason. There are so many outcomes that could happen with these 4 teams in this division. It's going to be very interesting, and the way that the division and the division winners looked over the past couple of years, it's going to be very different to see what happens and what goes on this year. And the one guy that used to beat up on all these division teams, you know, he's not really here anymore. He's on the New York Jets now, so it's going to be very interesting. So drop a like, subscribe, comment who you guys think is going to win the NFC North this year, and let's get into my breakdown starting with the Detroit Lions. So I kind of already broke down this whole Detroit Lions team in another video. Click the card up there if you guys missed it. So basically I'm just going to go over them briefly since I already talked about this in an older video. But like I was hinting to earlier about the division leaders and who's won the division recently changing, in my opinion, I think Detroit's going to win the division this year. Last year Detroit went 9-8 and was second place in the division, and honestly I thought they were going to go ahead and make the playoffs last year. Of course they were 1 game away, and of course they did not make it. As I said in my other video, I think Jared Goff's a very underrated quarterback. His stats showed last year that he was a pretty good QB to have, and just the weapons they have around Goff. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery for backs now, and of course Amon-Ra St. Brown is a huge and amazing wide receiver in the NFL. I think their offensive coordinator Ben Johnson does a great job in Detroit, and I really think Detroit can have a top offense in the NFL. I'm really in love with the Detroit Lions this year. Really like everything that they're doing. Their offense is truly immaculate, and I really think it's going to be a top 10, maybe even top 5 offense in the NFL this year. And then of course they added CJ Gardner-Johnson on that defense, which was an amazing safety for the Eagles last year. They also have, of course, Aiden Hutchinson, who they drafted last year. Alex Anzalone, I think that's how you pronounce that. They drafted Jack Campbell. They honestly have some nice pieces on that defense, and I really think this defense can be better than what it was last year. I think Dan Campbell is a great head coach of this Detroit Lions team, and I really think they're going to be pretty good this year, and I honestly think they are a 10-win team this year, and I really think they can go ahead and win the division this year. Of course, I'm not going to do a whole in-depth pretty much breakdown because I already did that. Click the card up there, like I said earlier, to watch that full video when I broke down this whole Lions team. But like I said, this team and this Detroit Lions team, I finally see for the first time in a long time that they're going to go ahead and win the division. Also, I see that there might be a chance that they could possibly win a playoff game this year, depending on who they go up and match up against in the first round of the playoffs. But I definitely see this team being a 10-win team this year and going ahead and winning the division. Next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings. Last year they went 13-4, but they were a very suspect 13-4 team. Of course, last year they had a negative 3-point differential, and they weren't looking like the greatest team, and that's why they got bounced out the first round versus the New York Giants. Now, of course, what makes this team interesting is that their offense is actually pretty good. Of course, they have Kirk Cousins at quarterback. You know how Kirk Cousins is going to be. He's going to be one of them guys that actually is pretty good of a quarterback, I would say. And of course, they have the best wide receiver in the NFL with Justin Jefferson. Of course, this offseason, they let Adam Thielen go, and they went ahead and drafted Jordan Addison in the first round of the NFL draft. I'm a huge Jordan Addison fan. I really think he can be a great weapon in this Minnesota offense. Of course, they also let Dalvin Cook go. They have Alexander Mattison as their RB1 now. It's going to be very interesting to see what he can do with finally a full role in Minnesota. And of course, KJ Osborne, TJ Hawkinson, some great pass catchers for the Minnesota Vikings. I still think this offense is probably going to be just as good as it was last year. I really see no reason that it would have a decrease in production or anything like that. I still think it's pretty much going to be the same thing. Jefferson and Kirk Cousins, of course, are going to be an ultimate duo still, and I think Jordan Addison in there too. His rookie year, they're all going to be great, and that Minnesota offense is going to be good. The one thing that kind of scares me, though, is the Minnesota Vikings defense. Now, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens because this defense last year, it was horrible. If you just look at the stats, it was not good, and last year they were not a good defense. Now, of course, Brian Flores is the defensive coordinator now, and I'm a huge Brian Flores guy, so it's going to be very interesting to see what he can do. This defense might be the reason why the Minnesota Vikings regress. I mean, they have some guys in Marcus Davenport, Danielle Hunter, Harrison Phillips, and of course, Harrison Smith and Byron Murphy Jr. It's going to be interesting to see what they can do, but honestly, I think this might be the reason why the Vikings might not win the division this year, and they might regress a little bit. So I see some people saying that they could go ahead and be another 10-win team, or they might fall into that 8 and 9 range. So it is going to be interesting. I'm in the middle. I really don't know how to feel about them. I do think there is going to be some regression in there. Honestly, they might not be a 10-win team. They might be an 8 to 9-win team. We are going to see though. But I do think this Minnesota Vikings team is going to fall off. Just having that negative 3-point differential last year, not going to be able to continue that and keep winning these short and close games. But next year for the Vikings, it is going to be interesting. Next up, we have the Chicago Bears. Of course, the Bears last season had the worst record in the NFL, and things were not looking good. But they have one saving grace this year, and it's going to be Justin Feilds. I'm personally a huge fan of Mr. Justin. I think he's an amazing quarterback, and I think this year is going to be his official breakout year. Last year, we saw how electric he was and how great of a quarterback he is with rushing the football, and I think passing, that stuff's going to change this year. A lot of people say he can't throw the football, but guess what? Last year, the Bears wide receiver room was absolutely cooked, but guess what? We're coming back with some things. Of course, trading for DJ Moore with the whole #1 overall pick situation was huge. DJ Moore, in my opinion, is a great wide receiver, a top 15 guy in the NFL, in my opinion. He is great, and of course, they have Mooney, another great guy to have. I have Chase Claypool still there, but don't even get me started on that. Traded basically a first-round pick for him. Don't even get me started on that. And then, of course, they have Cole Kmet, a great tight end, in my opinion. Probably one of the most decent tight ends you could probably have in the NFL. We saw last year him and Fields was a nice duo. And, of course, their rushing potential is off the charts. Of course, I already said Fields last year was amazing rushing the ball. Khalil Herbert's an explosive and underrated running back, in my opinion. Of course, they also have Foreman. The Bears have a nice rushing ability, and I really think they're going to be able to run the ball well. The Bears' huge problem last year was, of course, the offensive line. They ended up drafting a guy right out of Tennessee with the 10th pick. Hopefully he's good since they drafted him with the 10th pick. The offensive line, of course, it's still looking kind of questionable, but it's going to be interesting to see what they do about it, because definitely this offensive line could probably still use some upgrades. And then, of course, last year, the defense, this was really bad last year, I'm not going to lie. This Chicago defense completely fell apart from its prime 2018 days. I mean, they signed TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds, which are honestly some huge additions that add at that linebacker position. Hopefully those guys are really good. They have Eddie Jackson still at safety. It's going to be interesting to see what exactly they do, but I do not think the Bears is still going to have like a super good defense, but I do think hopefully it's better than what it was last year, because I'm not going to lie, the Bears defense last year, it was horrible. This is going to be my take on the Chicago Bears this season. If everything goes right, I could potentially see them as a 7-seed wildcard team. Since the NFC is just so weak this year, I can potentially see it if everything goes right. But if the offensive line and defense holds them back, I can actually see them as maybe like a 6-win team. It all depends on how the pieces they added and all the things that they did in the offseason really work out. I feel like Justin Feilds is going to really carry this team this season. We pretty much saw it last year. The only thing that we saw last year pretty much so with the carrying was he couldn't really carry it to wins. But I do think this year is going to change, especially with adding DJ Moore and adding some new weapons for him. I think things are going to be a little bit different in Chicago. I'm not going to say Fields is going to be an MVP candidate this year. I do think he's going to be at least a top 15 to top 10 quarterback this year, though, and I really think the Bears are going to prove a lot of people wrong this year. Not saying that they're going to go like a huge run or something like that, just saying that they have like 7 seed, 6-win, in between like 6 to 9 win potential, depending on how everything goes. And the last team on today's video is the Green Bay Packers. Now, like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of different changes and stuff happening in Green Bay. Of course, Aaron Rodgers ain't here no more. We got Jordan Love. Now, I'm a huge Jordan Love believer. I'm a huge Jordan Love fan. I think if everything is right in Green Bay, he has potential to be a good quarterback. And I really think we're going to see that this year. I know we're going to see some struggles from him. First year fully starting, it's going to be very interesting to see, but he does have a few weapons to go ahead and help him. Of course, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, that run game is going to be a huge thing in Green Bay this year. They also got Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jalen Reed, Malik Health. It's going to be very interesting to see what exactly they do in Green Bay this year. I don't think they're going to make playoffs. I don't think they're going to be a wild card team. I think they're actually going to place last in the NFC North, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see what Green Bay exactly does. The offensive line is, they still got Bakhtiari, Elton Jenkins. It's going to be very interesting to see what exactly happens in Green Bay this year. I think this offense is definitely going to be questionable at times. They're not going to always know what to do right away. Of course, when you have, I wouldn't say a rookie quarterback, we know a quarterback first starting for the first time, things are going to be interesting, and you're probably not going to see success right away. I would say the defense is still pretty good, though. They still have some good playmakers: Kenny Clark, Preston Smith, Campbell, Rashawn Gary, Jair Alexander, and Savage, and Rasul Douglas. They have some pieces. Of course, they drafted Lucas Van Ness there. It's going to be truly interesting to see. I really think this defense is going to be something good for the Green Bay Packers. I really hope that this defense is going to be great. It's going to be very interesting, like I said, though. I don't know exactly what's going to happen in Green Bay this year, but I know for sure it's going to be wild. And like I said, I don't think they're going to be a playoff team. I just think that this year is going to be kind of a trial and error year for Green Bay. They're going to figure out what works and figure out what doesn't work and do some things, make some moves this offseason, and carry that in over to next season. Now, the reason why I said the NFC North is the most interesting division in the NFL is because the storylines coming out of it is crazy. We got the Detroit Lions, who a lot of people were predicting to be first. We also have the Minnesota Vikings talking about can they regress or can maybe they stay at that top level as they were kind of last year. The Green Bay Packers, a whole new quarterback, a whole new start in Green Bay. What is this going to mean? And a Chicago Bears team that made a lot of moves this offseason, how are they going to do? And honestly, I think this whole division is just so interesting to see how many storylines and how many things are going to come out of this division. But like I said at the beginning of the video, let me know who you guys think are going to win the NFC North. Like I said in the video, I got Detroit winning it, but If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like and subscribe, and watch these 2 videos, my top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL and my breakdown on the AFC North. I just said that division is stacked, so I'd really appreciate if you guys went ahead and watched that video, and I will see you guys in the next one.